Thank you. I'm here with the director of Late Bloomers, Julia Dyer. Thank you for being here with us so early this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, it's 1996 when this movie gets released, and there's so many controversial topics in it. So what was your approach back then? Why did you decide to make this film, knowing that there could be, people who were outspoken, maybe against what you were doing?
Honestly, we didn't approach it as a political film. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. My sister Gretchen, who wrote the script, and I and produced the film with me, so we made the film together. Really, we really loved the story, mm-hmm. We really, I think we consciously said, let's just approach this the way we would approach any romantic comedy, mm-hmm. And kind of as a classic genre piece. Mm-hmm. The thing that was different was that the two lovers were women, mm-hmm. but in many ways we really tried to be pretty straight ahead with the genre of a romantic comedy, and two lovers who fall in love but forces keep them apart, and they have to overcome odds, and they get separated and put back together, and it all ends in a wedding, like a classic Shakespeare comedy. I mean, it couldn't be more classic, really. And I think we really tried to approach it like that and not as a political statement. And that both worked for us and against us, I think. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people, when the film came out, wanted to see it as a political statement. Mm-hmm. And of course, realistically, that was all in there. Mm-hmm. But I think our hope was that audiences would love the story, mm-hmm. enjoy the storytelling, fall in love with the characters, root for them, whether or not they supported gay rights or not, or however they felt about that they would be swept up in a classic love story, and in the comedy and the pathos. And I think certainly in the screenings in the theater, that definitely happened. Mm-hmm. That was the experience that audiences had together, and that was really gratifying. In the world of film reviews and criticism and people looking at it, it got a lot more complicated. But on the day in the theater, people watched it like the way they would watch any romantic comedy, and they laughed and cried and cheered at the end, and it was very rewarding.
Was there any specific comment or maybe something that somebody said that sticks out in your mind when you were doing those screenings back when it was released? What was the common thing that people were saying?
Well, like I said, in the screenings, I think people were really loving it. Mm-hmm. And probably the most rewarding, the most gratifying thing was there were a number of people who either that we knew or that wrote to us later, and we did get a lot of letters after the film was out there, mm-hmm. From people who brought their family members to see it and used it as a way to talk about their life choices, and a way to kind of bring people on board with that might not otherwise have been. And so I think at the time, because there were so few representations of especially positive, mm-hmm. kind of happy ending representations of homosexual love and lesbian love, that a lot of people who were struggling with that at the time were able to sort of take heart from the film and sometimes share it with their friends and family as a way to help mm-hmm. Make that transition to being accepted. So
casting, is huge. It's important. It's everything. Where did you find your actors to play this part in a way that, like you said, you wanted the audience to love these characters in this story? So tell me about finding them and working with them.
Well, we were just talking about that actually today, because Connie Nelson and Dee Hennigan, who played the leads, are both here for the screening tonight, and it was really it was almost mysterious how we found them. I mean, I think we all felt like it was meant to be.
Okay.
We had not even written the script, but we had the story pretty well developed, and we had pretty strong ideas about what we wanted these women to sort of be like and look like. And we were making the film here in Dallas, so we were looking here in Dallas. We definitely were going to be on a budget, and we wanted to work with a local cast. And so literally, Connie was the one we found first, and we literally saw her picture in the paper from a play that she was in. And I looked at it on the cover of the arts section, I think of the Dallas Morning News or the Observer or something, and said, "Oh my God, that looks exactly like Dinah." You know, and she was being raved in this play. And then another friend of mine who was an actor said, "Oh, I know her. She's great. She's a great actress." And so we called her up and we met with her and we kind of pitched her the idea. And we just loved her. Like, we felt right away that the vibe was right. And she was reminding me that she said she liked us and she really liked the idea. And then she said, "Well, I'd like to read the script." And we were like, "Well, we don't even have the script yet. Here's the story, but trust us." And she just had a good instinct about it and came on board. And then we did actually audition quite a bit for the other role, once we had cast Connie, and we didn't find quite the person we were looking for. And then again, Dee Hennigan kind of came to us a little bit magically. She had left Dallas and then just came back when we were in this process, or maybe she wasn't even back yet. I think she was on the process of moving back. And I had gotten a headshot from her agent because I used to do some casting just out in the world. And I knew her. I'd seen her again in a play several years before, and I knew who she was and thought she was brilliant. And again, her picture just looked so perfect. She was just so luminous, and so I called her up, and I called her agent, and I said, I'm interested in casting, and talking to Dee Hennigan, and her agent was a little bit like, there was no script, there was no budget, she really wasn't that interested. And I just said, well, look, just tell her that a little bit, please tell her a little bit about the project and tell her I'd love to talk to her. And when you say that to an agent, they have to do that. Like, they can't say, no, I won't. And so she did, reluctantly, I think. And then I got a call from Dee, like, the next day, because it was just like, I think it hit something in her. Yeah. And she called me and we talked and connected, and then she came to Dallas and auditioned with, she read with Connie, and it was just perfect. Like, there was no looking back. So the great thing about it is that it was several months before we made the film, and even while we were writing the script, so they were able to really contribute to the creative process, to building those characters, we were able to work material as we were writing it and rewriting it with them. And then as we cast out, we did the same thing kind of out in the community. We started to bring all the actors that we really liked and wanted to work with into these character roles and let them participate in the creative process as we successive drafts of the script. So in the end, I mean, almost all the parts at some level were written for the actors that were playing them, or at least, they came aboard before we made the film, most of them, and had a role in fleshing them out.
So why Dallas? What was it that attracted you to this city?
Well, we lived here, so that was what attracted us to the city. I mean, we lived here and we worked in the community. We thought we had an amazing and I still believe this, even more so today, but it definitely was really clear to me back then that we had this amazing pool of acting talent here in Dallas, that people who, outside of this market that don't work here, don't really know how deep and how talented the actors in Dallas are. And once you really get a taste of that, it's like, oh, this is like this whole, I mean, it's not untapped, but in terms of like the national film world, a lot of times, films will come in from outside, and these incredible actors will get like one small cameo or something like that, but they're all capable of brilliant, performances carrying a feature film. And it was really wonderful to be able to kind of make that happen. and give these actresses something they could really chew on and that would really be challenging and that they could, hit out of the park. And, I think they did.
So how have you seen the independent filmmaking change from when you made this film to now? Would it have been easier to make this film back then, or do you think things were easier and more accessible back then, or what do you think about that?
Well, the means of production are a lot more affordable now than they were then.
Mm-hmm.
This film was shot on super 16 millimeter film, so you had all of the expenses of film processing, film printing, that's a per foot cost that is unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a mountain to climb for us budget wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I made another low budget independent film here about 5 years ago, The Playroom, and we shot it on digital. And a lot of the things were similar, but that was really different. The fact that we could just shoot our hearts out and not have that daily count of how many feet did you go over, and,
wow.
Which with an independent film, a lot of times quantity is quality, because that's what you really want, is to have the time to just get as much done as you can possibly do. And so in that way, I think it's way better now for low budget independent filmmakers because of the technology. But in other ways, it's very similar. It's not really that different. And I think it's a little bit less of a novelty now. I think we've had some, the filmmaking community here has grown. A lot of people have made movies. At the time, there weren't that many people that were really trying to make independent features, so we were a little bit more of a novelty. But at the same time, the community and all the support and the crew and everything has also grown to support that. So I think it's great. I love to see all the cool movies coming out of Dallas.
So, and as far as being a female filmmaker, I know that more women are trying to take roles as directors and as producers, but at that time there was little inspiration for women who wanted to be directors as far as, so talk to me about that. Who were your inspirations when you were starting out?
Well, I think when I was coming up through film school and stuff, my inspirations were all men. The really great, gritty, independent American filmmakers of the 70s and of the French New Wave. And, those, I'm like everybody else of that era. Those were the people who inspired me. They were just, and there weren't very many women at all. I think we were lucky that as we were starting our professional career, in the early years, Jane Campion came along, and she was very inspiring to both my sister Gretchen and me as somebody who was just working at such a high level, and really with a very recognizably female voice in her storytelling and her imagery and everything. It felt like something that we hadn't really experienced before, was somebody that great of an artist that was really working from a place that felt so familiar and unique to us. So I think that, and I'm glad to see that there's so much conversation going on right now about women in the industry. It feels like it's been a long time coming. And it's it's definitely, I don't know, I personally have been really supported, especially in this community in Dallas. I haven't had any, roadblocks thrown up to the work that I want to do. But at the same time, I think in the industry-wide, you definitely see an arc where the women, when we took Late Bloomers to Sundance in 1996, and there were, out of that group of filmmakers that were there that year, if you just by the numbers, the women had a lot harder path. It was a lot longer path to make their next film. It was I think it's just been, the path has been a lot more, a lot less greased for women, and hopefully that's changing. I think with all the attention on it, people are hopefully, we're going to see that actually evolve.
So who do you see now that you think is exciting, or some names that, or some films that you've seen?
Well, I've been thinking about a lot about just the kind of the new or pretty new brand of female comedy, especially because Late Bloomers is a comedy, you know, and these women are hilarious and they're very brave, you know, in this performance. Like they're really, and so I'm particularly fond in the last few years of like Amy Schumer and Amy Poehler and Melissa McCarthy and women who've really come out, Lena Dunham, you know, women who have come out and really defied the societal expectations of what they should look like or what they should talk about or how they should be funny and smart, you know, and that's been so refreshing. And it's particularly refreshing to see their success in the marketplace, to see audiences responding to that, to see that, because, you know, in the end, it's a business, and to be able to really do what you want to do, your work has to have a place, you know, has to have an audience and has to have a place. So that's been really great. I think it's been really encouraging.
So what are you working on now?
I'm working on a thriller, actually.
Oh, wow.
I guess I'm working on a gothic thriller that's set on a college campus. Are
you filming that here in Dallas or in Texas?
I don't know, because I'm not sure, but it'll certainly be produced out of here. I mean, I'm based here and I'll be working here, but we haven't selected a location yet. It's kind of a very particular style of architecture, and I'm not sure we would be able to find that here, but definitely the production will happen. You know, we'll be based here. Well,
congratulations on all your work and for helping pave the way for women and for independent filmmakers. Your film is showing at DIFF. What is the time or the date that it's
showing? Tonight.
Tonight.
At 7:30 at the Angelica. So I don't know if this will get out there in time, but
I would
love for people to come.
If people wanted to see it, is it, you know, can they watch it on Netflix or any on?
They will be able to. What's happening is this is kind of our celebration of the 20 years, but the film is being re-released. It's being picked up by a new distributor. It kind of went through its whole distribution cycle and came out the other end, and another distributor wanted to take it up. So it's going to be released digitally in September by Wolf Video on their digital platforms, Wolf On Demand, wolf.com. So yeah, look for it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.